Coriolanus. Oh boy. Raise your hand if you felt personally victimized when you realized this wasn't about Haymitch. But like, were we expecting this? Were we expecting this? If you do not know what this is the prequel to the Hunger Games trilogy that has been out forever. And the main character is President Snow when he's a youngin'. He's 18. Ambition will fuel him. Competition will drive him. But power has its price. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes was a roller coaster. I would recommend going into this book knowing literally nothing. Don't even read this little flappy thing on the inside. If you really need to be like convinced and are okay with a little bit of spoilers, then what you need to know is that this takes place during the 10th Hunger Games, when it was still at its most primitive stages. It is so different from the spectacle that it has become by the time we get to Katniss. And because they don't have a ton of victors, they have mentors, students from the academy that Snow attends. Because he's not an old man that attends to Rose Gardens, the tribute he's supposed to mentor is the girl tribute from District 12. And it turns out that this girl grows on him right before she's sent into the arena. It is so beautiful naked. I loved this book. I am a huge fan of the Hunger Games. The Hunger Games was what really got me into young adult literature. That was the spark, if you will. So reading this was just such a great time for me, and I really feel like this is how you build a villain. I really doubt Suzanne Collins knew all of this about President Snow when she was writing the books. But the way she backtracked and tied things in together so that we get this evolution of a villain was absolutely beautiful. If you have not read it, now is the time to go, because I really do not want to spoil this for you. You really just want to go in knowing hardly anything about it and just be surprised along the way. There are so many Easter eggs hidden for those of us who love the original trilogy. And I honestly think that the films played a big part in what went into this book. Because we got that perspective from the capital side in the movies, we kind of got to expand that world more and see more of what Snow was like. And I think that played a big role in like the continuity of his character. It's just so good. Okay, if you don't want to be spoiled, goodbye. Goodbye. Read it, come back and discuss. It literally took me 48 hours, so you can blow through it. So we open up onto part 1, The Mentor. First of all, first page, I'm just shocked. Tigress is his cousin. That woman with all the makeup and the thing. They made her so well in the movie. It is likely that I'm going to be saying Snow instead of Coriolanus. Coriolanus? What a name. I'm getting off topic. They are very close because Tigress's parents have died and so have both of Snow's parents. So they're living with their grandmother, who they called the Grandmam. They had all of their money invested in District 13, which obviously blew up during the war. So now all their money's gone. Their parents are gone. Snow and Tigress are trying to hold it together, live up to the Snow's name, and they're very patriotic, especially the Grandmam, who sings the capital anthem every morning at like 6 a.m. This entire book, no matter what it was, I was just trying to relate it back to our original trilogy. I feel like there's a mention of this, there's a mention of this. At one point when he's trying to get ready to go to like when they're going to announce all the mentors and who got who and stuff like that, which is a huge deal. This is, I believe, the first time they had children as mentors. They're not children, they're teenagers, but they're students. It's a big deal to get chosen, and he wants to put on a good show, but they have no money. He doesn't have the right clothes to do it. So Tigress, who is like a fashion apprentice, essentially, is trying to fix this for him, and he's just so obsessed with the fact that he doesn't have the right type of shirt to wear. And he's talking about how he has like kind of an obsessive mind, and when he gets fixed on something, he just can't let it go. And I was like, Katniss, question mark? But it's really important that Snow wins one of these prizes that he would get for his tribute going far enough in the Hunger Games, because he doesn't have the money to pay for university, and the only way he's going to be able to eventually restore the Snow's wealth is if he goes to university. Snow is so angry when the District 12 girl gets assigned to him, because it's the same as in our Katniss and Peeta world, where District 12 is, you know, one of the lowest of the low. The way they were acting like these tributes were assigned essentially at random, but that's not true, because all of these rich kids' parents were pulling strings, and Snow had no strings left to pull. He's relying on the fact that his family had honor in the past. But we get to see the reaping of District 12, Lucy Gray, get called as the tribute. And it seems that she knew this was coming, because she's holding a snake, she drops it down the dress of the mayor's daughter. What? We've got a fighter, ladies and gentlemen. So the mayor's daughter starts freaking out, and Lucy Gray gets up to the stage, and the mayor slaps her. No one does anything. She's like knocked to the ground, but she stands up and like starts singing this song. I'm trying to imagine this girl in a ruffled dress on the stage that we see in the movie, and I was cracking up. And while the mentors, this is kind of like their senior project. They're not told to go pick up their tributes, but Snow really wants his tribute to trust him, which is going to be hard because she's from District 12 and he's from the capital. They are toting the tributes in on livestock cars. No food, water, fresh air. Like, it's such a stark difference from the way the tributes are treated when they're chosen in the later decades. He meets Lucy Gray, and he still feels like she's putting on a performance. He realizes she's a performer. This is a good thing for the Hunger Games. And I think it's this influence that really made him understand that the Hunger Games needs to be more of a performance than just an execution. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. He wants Lucy Gray to trust him, and all the kids are getting rounded up at the train station into this cage box that goes on a truck to carry them through the capital to the zoo where they're gonna be kept like animals. And he knows if he doesn't get in this cage with Lucy Gray and show that he thinks they're equals, or they should at least trust each other, he's already lost. So he gets in this cage and is toted through town. And these kids, kind of obviously want to kill him. But it's Lucy Gray that stands up for him. She's like, hey, stop, he's my mentor. I might need that later. Don't touch it. They get dumped into the darkness and land in the monkey cage at the zoo. I was appalled. I cannot believe that this was how the tributes were treated back then. It's so different. That was one of the things I absolutely loved about this book, was seeing how things have evolved over time and why they evolved. And people are coming to see them in the zoo like they're zoo animals, and they're scared of them because they're the wild tribute children. They're not human. They're just something completely different from what they are. In their mind, they have made such a separation between us and them. They're not even human. So Snow kind of figures out he has a big barrier to get over here. If he's going to get people to like his tribute and thus like him, he needs people to realize that Lucy Gray is human and not be so scared of her. And Snow pretty much presents her like a lady. He's like, here, I'm presenting this girl to you. She's coming around, she's talking, especially to the children, which is obviously going to win everybody over. One of the major ways that the mentors are trying to get their tributes to trust them is to feed them. They are not getting any food at all. Is that why it was called the Hunger Games? They starved them before they sent them into the arena? I feel like these Hunger Games lasted maybe 2 or 3 days. Half of them are probably going to drop dead from hunger. And we get this weird feeling about Sejanus. I have no idea if I'm saying that right. And he's begging his tribute from District 2 to take food. It's obvious that there's something personal there. I was like, he had to have known this tribute before, because Sejanus and his family were originally from District 2. Lucy Gray is clearly talented. They have these camera crews here, and he's like, one way to win them over is to sing. That obviously got her the most attention at the Reaping, no matter the fact that she was from District 12. And so when he's leaving the zoo, he hears her singing. And it's just wowing the audience. They love this because the only song they know is the national anthem, and they don't even know it. It turns out that a lot of the ideas that turned the Hunger Games into what we know it in the trilogy came from this time of the mentors being students, because they discussed it as a project. And Snow's best friend, Festus, actually is the one who comes up with a lot of the ideas that get implemented later. He suggests watching the Hunger Games law. He's also the one who's like, why don't we bet on these people like dog fights? And I'm like, who's the enemy here? Snow or Festus? So the first bonding moment between Snow and Lucy Gray is when he brings her this bread pudding. It's his favorite. Tigress made it. She almost starts crying, and she's like, this is my favorite. No, 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 no. And he's asking her about her family, and he realizes she could be married. People get married younger in the districts. And he's like, are you married? And she says, are you asking? And she's like, because I think this could work. What is going on? And Lucy Gray says yeah, we're not supposed to have instruments. She's a covey. I'm kind of getting like these traveling musicians who never really had roots, and then they just accidentally got rounded up into District 12 when the rebellion was over. And she's like, the peacekeepers let us keep our instruments even though we weren't supposed to have them, because they're some of our best customers. And it just reminded me of Katniss with the bow and arrow. During this time, Lucy Gray is also asking him a lot of questions because she's interested in him. And Snow is like, she's so easy to tell things to. Is it just because because she's gonna be dead in a few days. That was upsetting. Festus, yet again, comes up with a Hunger Games staple where people can feed the tributes they're betting on. He's like, this would make it longer, this would make it more interesting. It would cover the cost of the Hunger Games. And their evil professor, who is the head game maker, likes this idea. She tells Snow and Festus and Livia to write up a proposal, like, let's put this in action. Snow goes to the zoo to see Lucy Gray, and she's like, I wish we had met under different circumstances. Like, clearly flirting with him. And I was like, was she trying to get something out of this, or was she genuinely this interested? Like, I was just so confused because my brain is like, he is President Snow, we cannot like him. Snow, like, encouraged people, essentially, to bring food to the tributes because they're not getting fed. And so it's turned into a circus. If they have a talent, the kids are showing it off, trying to get food from these onlookers. And I could not believe that the reason that mentors and like their teams cannot give people gifts is because Snow is like, I don't have money to send gifts to Lucy Gray, and that would expose me as being poor, so let's make that a rule that you can't sponsor your own tribute. And as he's thinking this, Arachne, this girl, in front of the crowd, she's like showing off. She has a sandwich and she's like, you know, joking with her tribute, like the girl's trying to snatch at it and she turns away, and her tribute grabs the cheese knife and slits Arachne's throat. And her tribute grabs the sandwich, takes a bite, and just pelted with bullets. Do they have to go get another tribute? Apparently, it's normal for several of them to die before they make it to the arena. So Clemencia's like, I cannot work on this proposal, like surely our teacher will understand. And Snow's like, I don't know about that. So he writes the whole thing for them. Flashbacks to doing all the work in group projects. But in effect, Snow has created the games as what they are in our regular trilogy. But then when they go to drop it off the next morning, Clemencia, the girl who was supposed to help write this thing, goes with him, and they go to their teacher, their sadistic professor, the head game maker, and she's like, how'd y'all drop it off? Like, did y'all have an equal part in writing this? Can you show me what parts you wrote? And Clemencia lies about the part she had in it, and Snow covers for her. And their report is in a cage of lots of multicolored baby snakes. I was very uncomfortable. She tells them to reach into the enclosure and grab their report back. And Snow's like, oh, I don't know if I'm afraid of snakes. Like, they look kind of weird. How do you not know if you're afraid of snakes? That is a natural fear. And so he picks out one of the pages, and then Clemencia goes in and grabs it, and the teacher's like, oh, I should tell you, if your scent is not on the papers, these snakes will attack you. And it's like her hand's already in there, and these multicolored neon snakes attack her hand. I was unwell. I was so unwell. So this girl is rushed away. She's given some sort of antidote, which may or may not work, and their teacher clearly doesn't care. And she just tells Snow to go home. And he's walking out of the labs, and he's seeing all of these, you know, first beginning versions of mutations. Like all these creatures that they have later in the books. And she even mentions the reptiles. And my brain's like, finish! And he realizes there's all these Avoxes stuck in these tanks, and they have gills, feathers, and they're part animal, and it's just so, like, terrifying. So terrifying, and it's disgusting. He goes because he wants to talk to Lucy Gray about this. She's his closest confidant because these kids are very backstabby at his school. That's a word. Backstabby. He wanted to tell her about the snakes, but she's in such bad shape at the moment that he doesn't say anything. Because of the attack, people aren't going to see the tributes anymore. So he brings her food because she's starving, and she's going to share with Jessup, the boy from her district, because they've decided to become allies. And Lucy Gray pretty much says, like, it was really important to me that you showed up for me and, like, showed that I mattered as a person. And he tells her, like, you matter to me, Lucy Gray. And that was, like, his first recognition of feelings for her. So they're going to have this big parade funeral for Arachne, who died because she was being a butthole. And they bring out the tribute on this crane, and her corpse is dangling. Beneath her are the other 23 tributes, shackled like it's some like grotesque parade float. I couldn't deal with some of the things that went down in this book. Oh, okay. So they go in to the arena to take a tour of where they're gonna die with their mentors. And they go through these turnstiles. It's basically like an arena, like a gladiator arena, sports arena, but bigger. I am picturing the thing from Thor Ragnarok, where Thor's like, we're friends from work, when he sees the Hulk. And there's this moment when they're passing through the tunnels and it's really, really dark, and they hold hands. Snow and Lucy Gray. What? And so they're walking around kind of being cutesy. He sneaks her some food, which he's not supposed to do, especially since he took it from the academy. And then the bombs go off. Who set the bombs? Now there's holes in the walls the tributes can escape through, but there's this burning plank of wood across snow, and he like calls out to Lucy Gray. She comes back, gives up her possible freedom, and pulls the wood off of him, helps him escape. This explosion, which they think was caused by the rebels, they don't know when the bombs were planted. Maybe it wasn't for them, maybe it was just for whatever came in there next. Both of the tributes from District 6 were killed. 3 of the mentors were horribly injured. Both pairs of tributes from 1 and 2 ran away, and now they've killed both from 1 and the girl from 2, but Marcus is missing. Like, he's somewhere loose in the city. They think he's under the city because they found a manhole covering moved. And Snow finds all this out when he's in the hospital because of his burns. And he's like, well, what about the tributes? Like, they're all hurt. And they're like, we sent a veterinarian over there. I was just baffled by the things that these people thought was okay. Oh my gosh, and then Clemencia runs into his hospital room. She's covered in neon scales, like she's turning into one of the snakes, and is like grabbing Snow, saying that Dr. Gall is gonna kill her. And he has to go as a mentor to go talk to the tributes. He talks to Lucy Gray, but their power dynamic has shifted because this whole time she's been captured, he's been feeding her. But now she's saved his life, and he's still only able to feed her a little bit before she goes and dies herself. And it's just like, it's this imbalance that there's literally nothing he can do to pay her back. And he tells her that. He's like, I have no idea how I can make this up to you. And she says, start by thinking that I could win. And that was a really powerful moment because even I wasn't thinking she could win this whole time. I was just like, oh, it's gonna be so sad for Snow when she dies. And it just didn't even occur to me that she could have been the victor. And then we move into part 2, the prize. I'm ready for America's next top model. Okay, I'm sorry. There's Lucretius Lucky Flickerman is the host of the Hunger Games. I couldn't remember Caesar's first name, so I was like, is he just immortal? Like, is he just everlasting, the guy who hosts the Hunger Games? And I was like, oh no, his name's Caesar. So this must be his dad, maybe his grandfather. They have the exact same charisma. So they have the interviews. This is the first time they've ever had tribute interviews. Not even all of them are there. Snow has told Lucy Gray, like, you know, if you sing, you're probably gonna get sponsors, food in the arena, people are gonna like us. And so she sings. It's essentially about an ex-lover. And Snow's like, I don't like that. No. He was super jealous. She told Snow, like, this was a message to the Covey. Like, one of the other singers is gonna know what I was talking about. She's gonna know what happened because of what I said in that song. And it was kind of like a secret message. And during this time, people are sponsoring Lucy Gray like crazy because they love her. Their teacher's like, why is Lucy Gray getting all this stuff? Because she's, you know, she's not very big. She's not very strong. Why are people betting on her? And it's because she's the underdog with a broken heart. And Festus is like, people love a long shot. And it just reminds me of the first movie when Snow is in the Rose Garden with Seneca Crane. He's like, people love an underdog, but we can't let them get the upper hand. And like, that was like the whole theme of Snow's arc towards villainy. And Sejanus, he's the one with the most morally straight compass, despite his self-destructive tendencies. He asks their teacher, like, what did you love about war? And she was like, it proved me right, that people can't get along, that they're more animalistic than human when left alone, that they're gonna be violent. So Snow gives Lucy Gray his mother's compact that he's always had because it has like the smell of her in it. And while he took out that makeup sponge thing that was in it, Lucy Gray's not supposed to have it, so she's gonna hide this compact. And he's like, maybe you should put your own powder in it. And what he's essentially hinting at is that she should fill this with rat poison and poison one of the tributes once she gets into the arena. And so it kind of comes up between them, this guy in District 12 that Lucy Gray was in love with. Lucy Gray is like, hey, I like you. She kisses him. There's a whole kiss. I couldn't decide whether I was like overjoyed because I was starting to root for them or if I was disgusted. So I was like, that is President Snow. Ew. And there is a whole theme running through here where Snow is trying to convince the people of the capital that Lucy Gray is not actually district. And she may not be capital, but she's other. She's more like the capital than she is like the districts. And he's doing this by kind of emphasizing that she's Covey. She wasn't meant to be in District 12. She didn't live there. She just ended up there because of the way things ended at the war. They just kind of got pushed there. And he's like, yeah, she's not really District 12. She just happened to get chosen. She's like you and me. And that's kind of how he's talking to himself when he's talking about this crush he has on her. It's almost like, is she below me because she's district? He wants to make her relatable to him so that he doesn't feel weird about liking her. And the games begin. And like, we have this long long moment. Like, camera pans up to this pole where Marcus is hanging. They found him. They've hung him up on a pole, and he's still alive. And he's been, like, brutally beaten. He's pretty much been hung up there for whoever wants to kill him. And there's this whole problem with the games where they want people to watch it so they remember the war, but they're either, as we find out later, they don't have televisions in the district, or they're bored by it. And I think that's something Snow realizes as he moves forward and wants to implement these games further, is that this needs to be a performance. It needs to be a show. And right now it's not a show. Even Flickerman, like, they get Dr. Gall on there, the head game maker. He's like, what gives? Like, why is it so boring? Nobody's doing anything. Oh my gosh. So they go home for the night because nothing happens during the night because nobody can see. And the games are on his TV at home. Ma Plinth is there, so Sejanus' mother, and she sees Sejanus walk into the arena on the television. What is the child doing? Like, I understood that he was really upset about Marcus. Like, his old classmate who hated him has been brutally beaten and killed, and so he wants to honor the body. So that's what he's doing, because in District 2, apparently that's how they do ritual death rites, is they pour, like, breadcrumbs over the body, and that's what he's trying to do for Marcus, and then he just sits there. First of all, I could not believe that it was that open to the public. A tribute could get out if people can get in. And Sejanus knows this, like, he sits there and he's waiting for death. I was like, this is a suicide mission. Dr. Gall calls Snow and is like, get over here and get him out of there. I cannot believe you're sending him. Why not a peacekeeper? Also, they're blocking this out. Like, they've grayed out the entire arena so nobody can see it on TV if they're watching. It just looks like nighttime. So Snow goes in because he has no other choice, because Dr. Gall's gonna give him like a demerit, kick him out of the program. He's gonna be poor and homeless if he doesn't go and do this for her. That's a lot to put at stake. I thought it was just like the eeriest detail that when they go in, it's these old turnstiles. You have to put a coin in, and then when you walk through, it says enjoy the show, like, really happily. That's so creepy. Can you imagine when this movie comes out? This is gonna be a horror film.